I took it upon myself, and I think the college did in general, to really think through how we want to be able to have our artists interact in the world. And having a conversation with someone with the depth of John Yau is really a personal and political moment all wrapped up in one. And we're so grateful that John is really able to be with us today. I want to say that John is an author of 50 books, poetry, fiction, and art criticism. Very few people have written 50 books, so it's really amazing that John is. And John has a new book coming out, and he'll tell you maybe a couple things about that at the end or whatever. We are hoping to host John in the spring for him to talk about his book and his research and just put a lot of love on him, since he's been working in our sector, the arts sector, for a long time and setting new ground the whole way. He was born in Lynn, Massachusetts, to Chinese immigrants. He attended Bard College and got an MFA from Brooklyn in 1978. And he had his first book of poetry was called Crossing Canal Street. So the titles themselves are very instructive to us, and it was published in 1976. John's collection of poetry include Corpse and Mirror, which was selected by John Ashbery for the National Poetry Series, Edificio, Sayonara in 1992, Forbidden Entries, Borrowed Love Poems, English, Paradiso Diaspora, Exhibits, Further Adventures in Monochrome, and Hawaiian Cowboys, John. Hawaiian Cowboys, I gotta read that one. My Symptoms. So he has many, many books with, I think, incredible titles. I would say that reviewing one of John's books, The United States of Jasper Johns, one of his books on Jasper Johns, Publishers Weekly commented, if you already have a weighty, profusely illustrated book on artist Jasper Johns, but are still a little bemused, this is the book to buy. John covers the controversial neo-Dadaist painter from his 1955 flag to the 1993 After Holbein, deriving much of his text from interviews conducted with the reclusive Johns over a period of 15 years. I also want to say that John received many awards and honors: the New York Foundation for the Arts Award, the Jerome Shestack Award, the Levon Award from the Academy of American Poets. He's received National Endowment for the Arts, the Ingram Merrill Foundation Award, the Guggenheim Foundation, Chevalier Order of Arts and Science in France. He's taught at the following institutions: Pratt, Maryland Institute, College of Art, the School of Visual Arts, Brown University, University of California, Berkeley in our area. And since 2004, he's been the editor for arts at the Brooklyn Rail. He teaches now at Mason Gross School of Arts at Rutgers University and lives in New York City. John took the train to make it to talk to us tonight. So I would like to maybe start by having Jeong, you begin and show us your work. And then John, you will speak about Jeong, and then Hannah will do her work, and John will speak about Anna Kim, and then we'll let John wrap up anything he wants.
Okay.
Okay? So, I want to introduce Jeong. Jeong, you are an interdisciplinary artist with sculpture, painting, lots of different things, and you're from Seoul, Korea. And so why don't you take it away? You're graduating. This is it. This is your launch.
Yeah. So I will share my screen.
Yes. Is this a performance?
Oh no, it's just I painted myself with my it is like my studio in Korea, so I paint myself. So it's a picture of my lovely space.
So that's the space you had in Korea?
Yeah, I usually
It's-
work in here.
Okay. So it looks pretty small.
It is they have a 2 floor, so it is second floor.
Okay.
So I usually put my installation in here.
Oh, okay. So it's just you getting it ready for an installation.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. All right. So what's next?
So my name is Jeong Cho, and then my major is painting and drawing. So yeah, so my work is in the struggle between emotional turbulence and exploring outside pressure. So as a hypersensitive person, used to often get immersed in stories that I would come across through various mediums such as the news, movie, and novel. The meant that I tended to identify myself with people going through hard time. When I get the hardest story, it includes the news about different war or like terror or even story about people with traumatic experience in life. So one of the things that threw me in graffiti was always the theme of war. So since I originated from a country in Korea, so
Right.
where there was a direct experience of war on our land. So I feel that trace of the war remained in people's heart and our society as a whole. When I come across news regarding war, I feel as if I am pulled in by gravity to do some kind of artwork on it. So then I will show my artwork first. Those two
Okay.
works shows my it's about the papers. So one
Right.
day it happened to glance at the ceiling in the gallery and then imagine image of thin red being called that one.
Right.
Called yeah. Is I made my own thumb named after an English word, miniature. So I call that archers came
Okay.
to mind. During the course of conversation, the speaker's mouth erupts into a infinite, like a lot of members of archers to heart pump the blood through the body. So when products archers permanently meant in the world of consciousness even after conversation and whereby we can notice the trace of feeling regarding in the air that both the speaker and listener share. So when they peep, that is the speaker and then that one is listener. So when they conversation, the archers made by them. So it is that picture is I made like only archers word.
Right.
By miniature. I also made that.
Okay.
And that is the face of love that I examine this work relate not only on emotion in the stable of comfort, but only the dynamic flow of feelings that grow into full emotion response to stable love. So now I'm going to show you two series of work inspired by the concept of war. So first, it is a series of suicide notes written by different artists. So the suicide note series concerns the narrative of artists during time of war. It builds on its own worldview, where China and devastation of different world affected the psychological made of the character. In my work, I exhibit the subtlety and qualities of the protagonist's emotional shape. This work in the suicide note series is the will of suicide note of the narcissist poet. So it is the poet. It is his suicide note, and it is a video. Please watching.
Okay.
So like if it's pure or some paper over the door. That inspiration painted for me or for him.
Wow.
So this poet, unsuccessful during his lifetime,
Right.
erect he was okay, but he's not a great poet, not successful poet. So he decide so he think he have a lot of talent. He's full of him, he's kind of narcissist. So after that, made that painting, I put in front of the and I had installed the suicide note in front of the tomb, like a tomb monitored.
Right.
So yeah. And second, the title of second word, it is the suicide note of musician. There was ordinary musician who had great linear artists as parents. So he tragically started as he become deaf during the war, which so he lose his eye, he lose his ear, he can't listen anymore because he lose his talent, and then some part of body during the war. So he decided to let the musician living inside of him out, and then end of his life. So this work is his first and last attempt to visually express the musician inspirations that he had left in him. So I write the musician's suicide note.
Okay.
And then I made artwork for him.
Okay.
So that one is a visual representation of healing, and this one is visual representation of his suicide note.
Okay.
And then this video showed the musician's will, the process, and then feeling that he is creating his first visual artwork.
Okay.
Hey, Jeong, are we supposed to have the sound?
Mine? No.
No, it started getting.
Okay.
So that kinds of, yeah. And so third work is about performance artist who lost most of his face and part of his body during the war. The first part is artist confusion as he experienced the war. As the war went on his home country, the artist considered the changing attitude of the person of his nature towards art as a rejection for him. So according to the artist, this painting is the alien's fate to reel in its prey. So he had some like illumination. So he's suffering from illumination, that the missing part of his face when the fact eaten by alien. So even through it was the artist himself that drew the paint, his illumination led him to believe the aliens were trying to wheel in humans' prey. So it is true that those who wrecked and able to distinguish reality from daydreams are weak peoples that made an easy snack for aliens. So at the end of the day, the alien field of the philemia of these people. So he cut the alien's head and then display it on a pole to set an example for other aliens.
Okay.
And now this painting about his trauma. And then so I put the CD and film on here because after he lose his body, he watching the like past performance, his video like again. So it's kind of like door to go to like other my work.
Right.
And that one is his suicide note. And then I will please listen. I will read that. So yeah.
Is that the end, hey John?
At last,
Okay.
I lose my half and I
At
dance.
last, I lose my half.
The bait of
and I
melody
dance.
brings together the
The
things
bait
that
of
should
melody brings
disappear.
together the things that should disappear.
The things
The
that
things that
should be in place
are
out
out wandering, and white
and white
stages
stages
awaiting
awaiting
for fear turn to
for
red
fear
cloth
to
and
turn
fly
to
away.
red cloth and fly away.
Each drop of sweat grew like bugs every time.
Each drop of sweat grew
The missing
like bugs
pillars
every
that were
time
no
I
longer supporting the body only had someone else's
missing
desire
pillars
filling in the
that were
missing
no
spaces.
longer supporting my body
I'm not the
only
only one
had
living
someone
with such
else's
blankness,
desire
however.
filling in the
I feel like
missing
nobody would
spaces.
understand it. Is it too naive to
I'm
think
not
this
the
way?
only one living with such
I will
blackness,
stumble
however.
to go lock the door.
I feel like nobody would
Nights
understand.
trapped in the space had desires spill out.
Is it too
My
naive
faith
to
will
think this
compensate
way?
me for all of this.
나의
I'm
믿음이
not
있는
ordinary.
모든 것을 채울 것이다.
And my
I will stumble to go lock the door.
굴복하지 못한다.
Surely, trapped in this space had desires spill out.
이 죽음은 끝이 아니고 나
This death is
My
not the
faith
end,
will
but
compensate
signifies
for all of
balance.
this.
담고 있는 대화의 동정심을 담지
I am not
I do not
motivated,
sympathize
and
with
my
the
passion
conversation.
cannot contain submission.
이들은 더럽다고
Some will
여길 것이고
sympathize.
다른 이들은 그저 그
And some
Today,
regard it as
my first life will come to an
Some
end.
have seen it as disgusting.
This
Others
death
it's
does not mean the end, but signifies that my value.
So I want to read in person with our own language, and then I want to record with like other people's language. So
Right.
yeah. And then it's that is the performance. Oh. And I will show the like kind of performance video about making that installation.
Last.
Okay.
And this is the name of cringe map. Exploration of the character in the visual form. I interpret the artist will. So it is end of the suicide note series. The second is the series of exploring character who express significant change as them experience war. The characters that appear in this series have a common comment that they had just undergone the significant experience that has made them face emotional shift. So emotional shift is often result of pressure that is the outside city, mortality, and desert. So this work is about the character who Spiegel was desolated in the madness of war. I painted the character's home in his hometown, and I cover it with a desert color to show his devastation stable of mind. The image is very still and almost concerned by the earth. And this work is about the moment of desire and salvation. In this work, I want to express the frenzied disorientation. So the follow is a story about it. 고향을 방문한 이후 그는 확실히 변했다. 연약하고 사교성이 없던 그는 예전보다 더욱 집중력이 뚜렷하고 강해졌다. 그리고 남을 압도할 정도로 권위적인 청년으로 변했다. 자신의 비관적인 운명을 확인한 후 다르게 변했다는 그의 집중력과 권위는 무엇으로 설명하려는 걸까? 그는 성서 속의 살인자 카인의 피를 냄새라도 맡은 것일까? 그래서 카인의 후손이 되기를 자처한 것일까? 그의 자살은 마치 합리적인 선택인 것처럼 위장되었다. This is the end of story. So I cover it in red to give him a complete last. So it is the end of the series related to war. So this work is based on the short story that I written after reading the book Madame Bovary. The book tells a story of love, and I wanted to explore deeper into the theme of emotion with my own expectations. So what is most inspired by is the territory of blue, language of blue, and its texture and movement. I inspired by the community of blue as a symbol of combined experience, because when I think about something undersea, it is all connect, creating this environment, and they also have in common the weight of the water. And this creature also following the order system as we do in the area of COVID-19. So my installation, language of blue, examine a different aspect of the emotional spectrum, theme of pressure and desire that acted as important stimuli of my imagined character who had expanded. So language of blue used the scale of ocean as the metaphor of people's emotion, providing both microfic and view. So it is the video about the last work about the language of blue. So yeah, that kinds of video. And then I read that story, and then I showed the like under like deep sea oceans. Yeah. So
Wow.
art, yeah. So art was my way of creating a healthy distance between myself in the story. I contract like worldview of those people, the artists who suicide, and each individual worldview form different rooms in my mind that I can like freely enter and exit. So oftentimes before starting to work on project, I took some time to collect materials related to the subject of the next project. So like a preface to the book, the process get my start to legitimated and mentally preferred me to start work. So this process through realism and metaphor created a healthy distance for me to move to more comfortably examine the different emotions that I come across while fact this story. So yes, thank you. Thank you,
You're
Thomas.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Hey Jeong, and I'll leave it up to John now.
So you often combine video or film, writing, installation, soundtrack, like you'd like to make a whole environment, right?
Yeah, I love
And
to
then
make.
the environment is like a story of some character that you create.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a couple of things that intrigued me or interested me. One is the whole notion of Korean history seems to be really important to you. I mean, Korea was occupied, and then there was the division, then there was the war, then there was the horrible dictatorships. Up to, you know, I mean, it's a long, brutal history. And then, and you're aware, and you are aware of the fact that that you were born after the end of this brutal history, but still in this precarious position because Korea is divided into two worlds, right?
Yes.
And that seems to have had a pretty profound effect on you, understandably. So there's one artist that, I mean, the thing that struck me about your work is it has something in common with two Korean artists. Kim Suja, do you know her work? Kimsooja, Kim Suja. She often makes bundles of things, and she's often about being a nomad, living a nomadic life.
Oh yeah, I know her work.
Right.
The decoration, yeah.
And then the other artist that you brought to mind was Mira Lee, Mirelee. She makes machines.
MILE.
Mire
Oh yeah.
Lee.
Oh, I never
She's
seen
young.
her.
She lives in Amsterdam. She's probably in her late 30s.
Oh yeah, I know her.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
one of my favorite. Yeah,
Oh,
my
she's one of
favorite.
your favorites. Good.
Yeah,
I'm glad. She's a really interesting artist. And she also
Yeah.
uses poetry in her work sometimes.
I have her book about the this work, the name of career
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah.
woman's body. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know a woman who worked with her to translate a Korean poem into English, so she could put the poem on the wall in English. So anyway, the fact that you're related to those two doesn't mean you're not doing something that's yours. Okay, I'm just bringing this up, that you're in dialogue with these two quite different artists, Kim Suja and Mira Lee, but you seem to be you are trying to make something that's yours. The thing that's unsettling about your work is that it's always about trauma, right? Your work, like every single piece was the person commits suicide, right? It's a little unsettling, but not uninteresting. I think one artist that you should look at who's not Korean is Alberto Burri, Alberto, then Burri. I think is that how you spell? So he was a doctor, an Italian doctor, and he became a prisoner of war in America. So his work, and the thing I'm trying to suggest is just to think about, because the way you make your work, it's like the cloth and the red and everything is about the body, right? In your work, and it's about the body coming apart. It's about the body spilling its guts out. It's about the wounded body, right? It's about trauma. In that way, paint is seen as not simply paint, but as a kind of visceral matter, internal organs of the human. So one of the things that Alberto Burri did was, as he was a doctor, is all of his work is about wounds and burnt skin and other things. And you may get something out of that by kind of thinking how he thought about his materials. What metaphor is possible in the process and materials that you use? And how can you extend that beyond just trauma to something else? Right? I don't think you want to be trapped in this trauma. You want to move in different directions. I'm thinking, maybe I'm wrong, but and how do you move it? I mean, I'm not going to say, because I'm not an artist. I'm just someone that looks at art, but it's something for you to think about. How do I move my work to the next place? I did like the painting machine of the cloth dripping on the plastic that you then hung up outside.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah, that was a beautiful, eerie piece. And just as a work itself, it's interesting that becomes the work, the painting, right? It's almost, that's the painting. It's the record and it's the painting. Do you make a plan before you do your work? You
You mean before make my work?
Yeah.
First, I think writing is kind of planned to me. Like before make feature work, I
So you write
usually
it all out in Korean.
Korean, and then after I made
Then you translate it into English. So I think your writing is very good. I think you should keep doing that.
Thank you so much.
And I think you should write as a part of your practice, just to see where it takes you, not only to write just for the project, but just to keep writing, because it's obvious you read a lot of literature, you read a fair amount of poetry. It seems to me that, and Korea has one of the most interesting poetry scenes going on right now. So, and that I think is interesting, just to do that, to kind of use you're writing to see where it takes you rather than writing. So each of the writings that you've done is you set up a character's about to commit suicide, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right. So I think in a way you should try to you should write without that being the goal,
Okay. Mhm.
just to see what other kind of character you might come up with.
Mhm.
Right? Because in a way, I think you should try and make other characters in addition to these characters.
Mhm.
Right? There's different kinds of trauma, right? There's not just the trauma. I mean, yeah. Well, let's just leave it at that. And then, the fact is that all the figures in your work, which also I think is interesting, is that they're all artists. Now, the other thing that really gets me is this notion of connecting the artist to the alien.
Yeah, this one. Mhm.
Yeah. So is that something you're interested in, aliens?
Oh yeah, interesting about the space. So like
The,
not
the,
only
the how aliens are always described, right? They have gray skin, they're very
Mhm.
thin, they have the center of face that's pretty long, and they have big eyes. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the classic description of an alien.
Yeah. In the
Right.
movie.
Yeah. But also in books and stuff about abduction. Do you read books about alien abductions? I know this is
Uh,
an odd question to ask you. Sorry.
um, I mean, I don't want to say I believe alien because it is his work, so he believe alien.
Oh
So
no, I'm not asking you if you believe
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. So he think I think alien is not only alien to him. Like the aliens mean like the trauma, like is equal war to him. So like
Right.
mhm. So I didn't put that other story in here, but in his life, he fell in love with like cult, like fake religion in that time.
Right.
So he think like we have another God, not like he made like something new religions. So that religions like they hate aliens. So they hate like they only love about the people. So they think alien make war like not about not people. So
Okay.
it's that kind of story. So yeah, alien are really interesting about that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking. Because I think in a way the whole relationship that you make with this figure, the alien, could become explored in different ways besides the way you explored it. Okay. So, and the fact that you said that that he's made up a religion, you already thought about all this stuff, even if it didn't quite get into the work. So I think it's something to explore further, you know.
I think we're
And
gonna
what,
have to wrap it up soon. So sorry to
okay.
interrupt. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that you should think about the complexity of the characters you're making and see where else you can push them. And maybe make other things in their life, right?
Yeah, I usually make his name. I mean, his or her or she, him, but
Right.
a name, give name, and then age, and then like country, and like his hobby. But I never talk about it to other person because if I talk, if he have a like Korean name, everybody think that word is Korean word, and then if he
Right.
have a
Right.
Russian
Right. So you have to think about that and think about how to put that information in and distance yourself a little bit. Okay. That's my recommendation. I think what you do is really interesting.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Hey Jeong. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to transition to Hannah Kim,
Ah, there you are.
also from Seoul, and is also graduating just now. And Hannah does a number of different type of things as well. Hannah, take it away.
Okay. Okay. Is it working?
Yep. Says artist Anna Kim.
I'm Hannah Kim, and I'm also major painting and drawing.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to art middle and high school and continue to major in Korean painting.
Okay.
I was born in the United States, but I grew up in Korea. And like,
You're born in the United States. When did
Yeah,
you
I'm-
come to Korea?
yeah,
Oh.
I moved back and forth for my whole life.
Ah,
Yeah. So questioning my personal identity may be the reason why I chose to major in Korean painting.
okay.
I wanted to feel a stronger sense of belonging to Korea by choosing a Korean painting major. And also I was trained in a very traditional way after entering a university, majoring in also Korean painting. Then I thought about studying abroad because I didn't have to be bounded only by a Korean art materials, but the Eastern philosophy I learned at the time till now has been a great inspiration to me so far.
So Korean painting is ink painting, right?
It's equal to Eastern painting, and
Right,
especially
ink painting.
ink
Yeah,
painting.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Then I moved on to the theme of the moss, which I'm still working with. And the piece of the left is a pen drawing and the right is an ink drawing.
Ah, okay. Whoa.
Since then, I have been more attracted to moss for some reason. So I'm still working on the theme of moss. I used to think moss was nothing more than something that is very useless and burdensome to be removed. But some reason I began to perceive moss as more attractive after I'm observing it more closely. And I find its complex structure and color interested rather than disgusting. So since then, the process of finding the reason why I am so attracted to the moss is also part of my artwork.
Okay.
Okay.
And these are paintings on okay, it's acrylic on canvas. All right. Okay.
Moss is a pioneering species that represent the first living thing to grow in a new ecosystem. So I
Right.
started to identify and emphasize with moss from this period. One of the reasons I am really attracted to moss is because it is between disgust and beauty for myself. So I
Okay.
created a moss theme series using mixed media such as acrylic, stone powder, thread, and also Asian pigments. So moss stick to every damp and thin state and create roots. Perhaps that trait overlapped with my desire to take the roots of both Korea and the United States. My ambiguous identity, which is difficult to see as myself entirely from others, has been transformed into a color as if we were wearing colored glasses.
Okay.
So I really liked learning about the theory and spirit of the East, but I think I was able to decide to study abroad fully because I didn't feel the need to use only traditional materials and techniques.
Right.
So, however, because of the COVID, I work only at home. So the workspace was narrow and the materials were limited. Then I naturally became interested in a video and a sound work. So I conducted various experiments at the time.
Mhm.
Also, because of COVID, I connected more works to the Eastern philosophical terms of Vayu and Cheongshin. I should play. Wire is a
Wow.
So, value is a spiritual liberation and freedom to contemplate the world beyond age and physical limitation. So, Changshin means making one's body and spirit clean and fresh. Working under like stuffy control and isolation due to the COVID, I became more and more convinced of the power of the painting and artwork. And I started working to further develop the theme of moss, focusing on acrylic. Therefore, rather than the objective appearance of moss, the focus was on the fertility of moss and the expanding vitality of the moss. Moss comes to me in desperate, perhaps struggling. The way I experience nature is the way I create art. Sometimes I want to hold my own nature in my heart, and I want to fall endlessly into it. For me, nature is a space of healing and origin. Nature is a comforting being that exists in the same way everywhere on Earth. In addition to the characteristic of wet moss, I focus on the fragility that will fall when swept down. So the water was mixed a lot to be thin and moist. And in this work, I felt that the relationship between me and moss represented a specific part, like a camouflage used in the military. And I felt that moss and my specific part resemble each other. So I took a piece of fabric, which was used in the military tents, and worked on it. It was a process of experimenting with various methods and media under the theme of moss. From this work, I used a lot of yellow. It is also the express of the life force that seems to be shiny, but in Korea, it is also a color that symbolizes soil, land, and energy. So in Korea, the 오방색 is considered very important.
Right.
Yeah, yellow represents the center and the soil and the ground. The 5 colors symbolize the order of the universe. The Earth's components, tree, fire, water, soil, and iron, interact in each other and were considered to be the origin of the all rules exist in Earth. So center of the ground is considered to be the closest place to the sun, and is expressed in yellow, which symbolize 광명, which means a very bright future.
Right.
So overall, yeah, in my work, I used this 오방색 in as a very basic rule. From this work, I try to express the dampness of the moss. In particular, I focus on the characteristic of water that make moss wet and damp. I wanted to incorporate the characteristic of water and ocean into the artwork. Inspired by prism reflection of light in water, the vitality of the coral, marbling using surface tension, and dripping using fluid and deep blue lights due to selective scattering of the light. And this is the installation view of the water series.
Wow.
I am really also interested in making drawing tools to utilize on sites. Yeah, I wanted to include improvisation and coincidence in my work. The air, wind, and sand surrounding me help make the paintings on canvas and the fabric. Inspired by the elements of nature scattered around me, I collaborated with nature as an artist. And this was the result.
So the paper's inside the tube,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
paper's inside, and then the ball rolls around and makes those marks.
Yeah, right. I wait for the painting. To
Wow.
nature.
How interesting that is.
Thank you. And I also find comfort in unexpected process and research by the nature. Yeah.
So that was a painting made outside.
Yeah, there was a painting made outside with the winds.
Right.
Opening. Yeah. Mhm. So, and this is a series that has begun working on beats in earnest. It is a work about Orientalism that exists in me, myself, as
Okay.
my identity.
Okay.
Okay, so I will start with the video.
Drawing on your own skin.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
writing.
it's just okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
In the media world, like a Jungle Book, Hawaii Bible, Little Princesses, and etc., containing Orientalism were transcribed to my skin. And the
Okay.
flickering words that never go away and permitted like tattoos. The beats are like inflammation in me that fester and divide and grow.
Whoa. Yikes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
Now, most goes beyond the painting form and begins to expand, expressed into a various media, such as threads and beats. And here's my memoir. This series is began with my memoir. It's a part of it. According to the dichotomy, Britain set colonial India as a woman to conquer. The image of the East is seen as irrational, immoral, and in need of subject rule. This method has been repeated several times in history, and Korea is both a victim and a perpetrator. Our Orientalism, which stems from a sense of inferiority, is afraid that the West will identify us with other Eastern countries. We are sensitive to Western-centered evaluations and want to catch up with the standards. The attitude of Koreans who are sensitive to Asian hate, but despise and ignore immigrants from other Asian countries makes other Asian countries secondary victim. Beats are multiplied disgustingly or beautifully, like most on solid stone express my wants and festering and incurable wounds. I use my clothes, including beads and sewing, to work on not only frills and rays, but also as a symbol of femininity. Messy threads and clothes ask questions about Orientalism, femininity, and my own identity in a non-standard way. It makes the gesture of stitching it up with threads, like curing the wounds, the hurts. And the stone symbolizes my festering heart inflammation. Orientalism in us, which is a replica of Orientalism, is a voluntary sympathy to the Western perspective and causes us discriminate against other countries. This is a deep pain. And these are still cuts of the video work.
Mhm.
And this is work wanted to express the color of Moses' struggle to live and his desperate struggle as a work. To me, Moses is now an object that makes me feel some unknown sense of kinship and an object to infinite affection of myself. This work expresses overflowing fertility and vitality on transparent silk and wooden frame. And I think the desire to grow and desire to take a root is more like a triangle shape than a square shape. So I select triangle shape a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the installation view of our graduation show.
Ah,
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Yeah.
Welcome.
Mhm.
Well, there's a few things. I mean, one thing, so did you study calligraphy in Korea? Like, what kind of Korean? Because you have a beautiful drawing. I mean, you have a really nice hand, as they say, right? I mean, you can paint abstractly, you can paint figuratively. A lot of your paintings seem sort of in between abstraction and figuration, but what's really striking is just the brushwork.
Mhm.
It's very, convincing, real, and quite wonderful. I think the whole thing with moss,
Mhm.
kind of trying to get beyond it a little bit in the later work with like the yellow vertical one that was like a kind of waterfall. I think it was called Luminous.
Oh,
Yeah, I look at this. I mean, there's kind of different kinds of that one.
mhm.
I mean, that's a really different painting than the others, right? It's really about the brushwork. I mean, there are what look like flowers in the bottom, right? But all the stuff that happens above is just really different ways of putting paint on that I think is quite striking. So I think one thing to think about is what kind of subjects could you pick that allow you to use that kind of brushwork, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Right.
really good at it. You probably don't want to know that, but I'm telling you anyway. And you don't want to restrict it to a subject or one subject. There's lots of
Mhm.
subjects, I think. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
also just the way you put the light against the dark is
Mhm.
quite beautiful. So where did you live in America?
I'm born in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. That's pretty
Yeah.
far from Seoul.
Yeah, it was pretty far, and I went to high school at Hawaii,
In
and
Hawaii.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and elementary school at LA.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you lived in Pittsburgh, Hawaii, Los Angeles, and Seoul.
yeah, and now San Francisco.
And now, yeah, okay. But where in Hawaii did you go to high school? Was it on the Big Island?
Near Waikiki.
Okay. Near the beach.
Yeah, near the beach. Mhm. Yeah.
Are you going to go back to Pittsburgh? You should go see the Carnegie International.
Oh, okay. Carnegie International.
If you go to Pittsburgh before the end of January, it was
Mhm.
put together by a man from Pakistan, and he has a number of Korean artists in it.
Oh, okay.
Quite good, including Mira Lee, the artist, but he also had Yoon Yang and some other Korean artists. There are a lot of Korean artists, young women artists in America now that I think are really interesting that you should kind of find out about. I can send him a list of names
Yeah,
of Korean artists. Some from Korea who've come to America to study, others who are Korean American,
Mhm.
others who are Koreans who were adopted by America. I mean, it's just a whole group of them. And I think you would find, and most of them are on Instagram, so you could probably even connect with them that way, which I think would just be good for you to do,
Yeah,
just to see that there's a community of young women, Korean artists living in America who
Yeah.
I think are doing really interesting things. I think both of you should do this. And I'll
Yeah.
just send names to Kim, probably a list of like 10 names that
Yeah.
you can find out about.
Okay, yeah.
Some live in Korea because I was in
Thank
Seoul
you.
in August and I saw a lot of young Korean
Oh.
artists and I thought they're really good. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
but I really like the way you paint, and I also like both of your films. Both of you make really interesting films because they take an unexpected perspective. I mean, the one of the feet coming down the stairs, and you don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing or it's dangerous. And then the one that you did with with writing on your skin,
Mhm.
that just made me. That just unnerved me completely. It wasn't. You didn't stab yourself or anything, but just the fact that the ink didn't stay on your skin, and then you kept writing, and I couldn't quite read the words. It was like that was one of the most creepy films I've ever seen. And I think in a really good way. I mean, it was just kind of unsettling because you feel like it's really about how the world writes on you, right?
Yeah, right.
The world names you without you being able to do anything about it. So that's, kind of a powerful statement. So, yes, I like that. So that, and then you draw, right? The fact that you do drawing, you do painting, you make films, or the other person who writes, and then you make these kind of. I also like the way you made these things with the cloth.
Oh, yeah. It's new.
Those I think are quite interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I always interested in take a subject about between beautifulness and grossness.
Right.
Yeah, and I like that you like that point. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's powerful work. Good for you, Ken. We got nice students. You have to send them to Rutgers.
Yeah, these are undergrads, and
I know.
I think both of them are taking a gap year. Is that right? Jeong and Kana. I think they're getting some experience in the world before they go to grad school.
Yeah, right.
Both of you should go to grad school, though.
But what John is saying, Rutgers might like to have you.
Oh, yeah, I would, but I'm not going to be there. But I think you should think about going to a good grad school.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You're planning to go to grad school?
Yes.
And you should go to a grad school where you want to study with someone who teaches there. Don't just go to any old grad school.
Mhm.
I have a Chinese friend. He came to America. He didn't know anything about America, so he decided to go to a college, and he decided that the two college that he would just go to the first college he thought was interesting in the first state. Well, the first state is Alabama.
Oh.
So here's a Chinese guy, never been to America. He thinks all of America's alike, and he ends up in Alabama. And I said, well, you could have skipped and gone to Alaska. That's the next state. So well, at least Alabama was warm. So pick a school you want to go to, not just a school because it's a grad school. All right. I think that would be better. And it'd be nice to find out if there are other Asian students there. Check their at who goes to the school. I think that's important.
Yeah.
John, can you give us a little teaser about your book? Just a little.
Okay, my book is called Please Wait by the Coat Room, Reconsidering Identity and Art in America. So it's interesting that you talked about living in Pittsburgh and Seoul, because a lot of my book is about the fact that identity is not a clear-cut issue.
Yeah.
And that I talk a lot about like James Luna, who was Mexican and Native American, different artists who are from two cultures, and what does it mean if you're not really wholly accepted by either culture. And so I talked a lot about that, or I talked about Ji-ha Moon, who was Korean. She got a degree, an art degree in Korea. Then she moved to America and she started all over again and went to art school in Iowa. And so she's really talks about, and her art has a lot about both cultures in it. So, so I talked a lot about different artists like that with a lot. And so I also, because the race in America is seen as like two races, black and white. So I talked about Native American artists, East Asian artists, South Asian artists, Native American artists, Latinx artists. Like I try to cover the waterfront, as they say. And it begins, the first essay in the book is about the fact that the Museum of Modern Art used to hang a painting by Wilfredo Lam, who was Afro-Cuban and Chinese, by the coat room. And I talked about why MoMA misrepresented him, because they call him as a surrealist. They never talk about his racial background, so which influenced his art. So that's my book.
Yay.
It's about 50 essays, different lengths, and it should be out in June.
We'll all be thinking about it. We'll all be thinking about your book and getting your book. That's super.
Okay, good.
Well,
And I'm on Hyperallergic every week. Do you guys read Hyperallergic?
Yes. It's exciting.
Hyperallergic is something to pay attention
You're
to.
welcome. Yeah, it's an online magazine, and I usually have 2 reviews a week. So you can read it whenever you want. And they're all archived. So I've written about a lot of Korean artists that you could look up.
Which makes it so special that you're with us today.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And I really like Seoul, by the way. I wish I could go back. Do you also know the Nozkowski artists? The Korean artists who became important in the 60s? They're
Let's
called
see.
Nozkowski. They're the Korean monochrome painters.
Pasqua?
Let's see. I'm gonna have to spell it.
Hansekwa?
Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh.
they're great artists.
Yeah, right.
So one of them used barbed wire in his paintings. So it's a really, he's a wonderful artist whose name suddenly left my head. It's called Old Age. Anyway, he used barbed wire in his paintings. And then another painting, and I just wrote about one painting I saw in his studio outside Seoul, is he took all the barbs off the barbed wire and he pinned them to the canvas.
Wow.
And so when you're standing like 20 feet away, it looks like flowers, dried flowers. But then you go up and you see that it's all barbed wire. And then when I looked at it, he said, people. I said flowers, and he said, no, people. So he's obviously dealing with trauma too. So I think of the artists of that generation who really lived through a lot of horror or tried to deal with trauma a lot in their work. And I think it's worth looking at their work because you're doing something very different. So you can kind of see what they did and how they tried to get beyond it. It's a fascinating time, history. I mean, Korean art in the late 50s, early 60s, mid 60s becomes a major world art. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, that era.
Not to mention pop culture. Is that what the content?
Well, I don't know anything about Korean pop culture. I'll just admit it. I don't know anything. I'm totally ignorant. But a lot of great poets there, a lot of really interesting writers, a lot of really interesting fiction. So lots going on there.
Film.
Oh, I love Korean film. I have to say, I watch a lot of Korean movies. They made the best zombie movie ever.
Well, I want to extend such gratitude.
Oh, please. I had a great time. I'm glad to meet you too.
This
I'm
is
glad you're
California
here.
College of the Arts, and this is the painting program, and we're in Senior Conversations, and we're super lucky to have you, and we're super lucky to have these young artists who have done
Yeah, terrific
well
work.
in our
I'm
program.
really happy to see it. You never know. I have gone to university and seen a student and thought, oh, why did I come here? And try to be polite, but can't be because I can't help myself. And so, no, I think both of you do really interesting work and very real, right? There's art about art, and then there's art about living. And both of you are dealing with art about living, right?
Yeah.
It's the hardest subject to deal with. You know?
Yeah, thank you so much. We were nervous that you were coming, but we were really so excited. So yeah, thank you
Good.
for the advice and comments and feedbacks. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I'm happy that it's recorded now.
Yes.
Good. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to our
See you
audience
later.
for coming and listening and sharing
Thank
this
you.
evening
Yeah.
with
Thank
us.
you.
And
Bye-bye.
Karen, and
Thank
Have
you
a
so
nice
much,
child.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.